Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of What the Health Just Happened, where we talk about all things healthcare, community, business, and life. The goods, the bads, the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights, and everything in between. We are so fortunate to have on a variety of guests way smarter than we are to share their industry expertise, their life stories, their journey, etc. And today is no different. Joining us in the studio here at 212 Benefits, CEO of National Kidney Partners, Dr. Lani Paxton.
Hi
Correct?
there. Yep,
Did
that's
I say that correctly?
That is correct.
And Executive Director for National Kidney Partners Foundation, Carly Hamid.
Yes.
Hamid. So I got them both right.
You got them right. Yeah, 100%.
We got Joey Jansen sitting in the corner as well. Trey, who's, I would say co-host. I don't even call you camera guy anymore, but I love when you chime in.
Appreciate that.
Oh, that intro is exhausting. Welcome to What the Health Just Happened. Who wants to start? National Kidney Partners? Go.
Sure. What do you want to know?
Story. Let's hear about it. We got some good stories.
Well, so National Kidney Partners, like any other practice, has a great story. So our founder, Dr. Murali Acharya, started the practice back in the 1970s. He was a solo practitioner on the north side of Tampa. As I'm told, he used to drive 200 miles a day to make sure that he saw all of his patients.
How many patients?
I don't even know. I never thought to ask the question how many people he was seeing, but he covered 200 miles of territory to do it, to build his practice. And so he built that group organically over many years. And in 2022, we put together sort of a statewide presence here in Florida. So folks from the whole Tampa Bay region, about 26 of them, plus some folks in Fort Myers, Fort Lauderdale, Fort Pierce, and then here in Jacksonville, all came together to form National Kidney Partners in 2022.
When you say folks, you mean clinicians, doctors specifically that are like, we like what you're doing?
Yeah, nephrologists. Nephrologists, really.
Term. You know what a nephrologist is?
Gosh, no, I don't. Tell me, please.
So a kidney specialist.
Okay, there we go. Hey, that helps.
Yeah, they're internal medicine doctors who take care of kidneys as their primary specialty.
Were they finding you? Were you finding them? Do they have a caseload of patients? Like, I need more support behind me. How are you growing?
So specifically, the reason that they brought me in was that I like to grow businesses. That's kind of what I would say. If you ask me what I like to do in my career, is to put together companies. And so in 2022, when they were putting together these 8 different practices across the state, they brought me in to help them all work together. Put together a foundation, build one team instead of 8 different teams spread out across the whole state. So, I mean, as you can imagine, having grown up from very different practices, they all worked a little different. And the kind of core belief for this group is that we allow physicians to practice the way they want. It's autonomous. They get to make choices about their own way of doing things. And we try to, so we have sort of, I guess I call it a federal and states model. There's the federal government, that's National Kidney Partners, and then there's the local areas. And so a lot of things are federal problems, and then there are things that we leave to the states. We let them decide what hospitals they see patients at, how many patients they see in a day, all those types of things.
I already have so many questions. For like, approximately how many patients are you all responsible for?
Oh my gosh. The patient panel for the group, I would say that typically for a nephrologist, an active panel is over 10,000 patients. Oh. So we have 50 physicians. That's for one nephrologist. Yeah.
And they're not seeing them. How often are they seeing these patients?
Depends.
Yeah, like me, I'm once every 3 months because I have a transplant. But then when I was on dialysis, and I know we're skipping ahead, but I was once a month. So you could be once a year, you could be once every 6 months, you could be once every 3 months. It depends. We come back when you need me, kind of thing.
Right. So the active panel is a large group of people because we're only going to see you periodically throughout that time frame based on how much you need, really, from the docs.
Who wants to do math? So if there's
50,
10,000
let's call
per
50 physicians and 10,000 per physician, that's $500,000.
That's a lot of belly buttons.
It is. It's a lot of kidneys.
Yeah. That's a lot of kidneys. That's
right. It's
that's 1 million kidneys.
It's 1 million kidneys. Right. It's a lot.
It's true.
This is a weird question. You don't have to answer this. How often are you guys getting called by private equity firms trying to buy you up?
So that's really an interesting question. Nephrology is not a sexy specialty. For those of you who don't know. And I'll tell you why. So back in the 70s, we decided that essentially we would socialize the practice of dialysis in the country. It's paid for by Medicare. It's a government-funded thing. That changed the dynamic. Having that government funding makes it very level and very unsexy. That's the only procedure that nephrologists do. So unlike a cardiologist who's doing cardiac caths, the GI docs who are doing colonoscopies, we're not like that. We're a thinking man's specialty. And for that reason, private equity has been really slow to come to nephrology. We don't make the same kind of money that the cardiologists and GI docs do, and we don't have the same rich structure for payers back behind us. So it's just a really different dynamic.
Do you all have your own dialysis clinics? Are you partnering with places like DaVita? I mean,
we do not have our own dialysis clinics. We are the medical directors for probably 100 clinics in the state. And that includes we have many business partners, DaVita, Fresenius, ARA, we do not have one with US Renal at this point in time.
Not yet.
Not
you
yet.
Hear this, US Renal?
Not yet. And I mean, we're good friends with the folks at US Renal, but I think that just like we like to be autonomous for our physician groups in the local areas, we also are fiercely independent. We don't want to be owned by
you
private
want to control
equity.
Your own destiny.
Correct.
Oh, amen to that. Hold on as long as you can.
We're going to hold on, and we're going to hold on forever. And it's not as long as you can.
This gets me excited.
Yeah. Did you know that in the country, only 25% of physicians are still in independent private practice? 25%.
I did know that, but I thought it was lower. I thought it was 18%.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you look at the trends. It used to be so much higher, but it's actually, and many of them are in larger practices like ours because it's much harder to practice in the smaller groups. So
it's very difficult.
Private equity has really pushed people to conglomerate.
Do you think, so I look at like a pendulum swinging back and forth. I think it's swung way too far this way. I think it's starting to swing back where a lot of people want to go out on their own. I don't know.
I think people want to, but I think the ability to get payer contracts, the ability to deal with value-based care, which is a whole new,
What are your thoughts on value-based care? I'll plead the fifth.
I got a lot of them actually, but fundamentally, I think that it actually makes a lot of sense from a physician standpoint. The whole idea, of course, is that you increase quality and decrease cost. Right. So
that's a great concept.
Which is a great concept. In order to do that, what they say is we'll pay you this amount of money and you decide how you spend it. And so that allows you to sort of focus on, does this person need to be seen every month? Or could we space that out to every 6 months? Does that make sense for them in life? Whereas before, we're sort of volume driven. The more people I see, the more I get paid.
Belly buttons. I say belly buttons.
Belly buttons, kidneys. I mean, however much that you could do, you get paid by how much volume you see. In this world of value-based care, you're paid for the quality of services you provide, and you get to decide how you allocate your time. So theoretically, you can spend your time on the people who really need it.
I love asking these two questions. Do you guys know what dialysis is?
Yes.
Is that true, Joey? Trey, do you know what it is?
No, I do not.
I know
Can you?
Yes.
How do you abbreviate dialysis? Right. So you went through it.
I was to say, Carly, you take that question.
Yeah. So when your kidneys don't work, your kidneys clean your blood and your body and keep all of the toxins out by when you urinate. And when your kidneys aren't working, you have to go on dialysis. This is a huge machine that literally takes your blood and cleans it and brings it back into your body. And you sit there for about 3.5 hours if you're doing in clinic, which is called hemodialysis. And you sit in a big chair and they hook you up. I have a little scar right there from where they put it.
Port?
I didn't have a port. I actually had an IV line that went straight in.
Catheter.
A catheter. And but then I went on PD dialysis. That's called peritoneal dialysis. I did that from home and I was 22. So imagine me, younger, cuter, 10 pounds lighter.
Oh my goodness.
but on dialysis. So it was not great. And I had this machine and you basically put a liquid in there and you have a tube that sticks out of your belly and you hook it up and the liquid goes in and it absorbs all of the toxins. And then a few hours later, you get back on and it drains all the liquids out, which it also drains all of the toxins out. And I had to do that all night. Well, yeah, daily, all night. And then I had to do it twice during the day as well. I had to do it once over lunch, once after dinner, got to take a break and had to get back on it again.
Go ahead, Trey.
Were you able to carry out your normal day-to-day while doing that?
I actually worked as a teacher, and I was a single mom with a 2-year-old at the time.
Dear Lord.
So
Holy
I will
smokes.
say, I say a caveat that when I say single mom, I had a wonderful co-parent, and we amicably divorced. So he came over every night, and we had dinner together with our son. So it wasn't like I was destitute, but it was like at night I chose to be alone. So if I had a child, which I did at one point, getting sick, they made my tube long enough so I could hold a child getting sick, and then bring him into my bed afterwards because we had this hallway.
Wow.
Were you going to have a question? Because I got a couple follow-up ones on dialysis. So I like to really dumb things down sometime, right? Think of it as like an oil change in your blood, right? You have cement going through your body. Let's clean it out, filter it. The time it takes for one session of dialysis is what, 3 hours?
It depends. So hemodialysis, like when you're going center, the average is 3.5 to 4 hours.
That's your prescription that you get.
Approximately how many days a week is on average?
They go 3 times a week, which is sort of that's the standard these days for hemodialysis.
Monday, Wednesday, Fridays.
Or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 3 days out of the week. So
think about this.
So I think that to answer your question or put it in real terms, a patient who's on hemodialysis is going to spend about 40% of their time on dialysis.
Go ahead, because
I did have
that's a
one
great
question.
transition.
You mentioned when you were at home, you were doing it over lunch. How long does that take? So it's if you're in the office, it's 3.5 hours.
So when she's talking about peritoneal dialysis, so in hemo in the units, they're using an external filter and they're filtering everything through this fancy machine that's over here. With peritoneal dialysis, they're actually using a part of your body in your belly as the filter.
Your peritoneal cavity.
So the peritoneum, the lining of your belly cavity, is what's used as the filter. So what happens is they put the fluid inside of your belly, and then you can go on about your business in that period of time during what they call the dwell time, while the fluid sits in your belly and works through the filter to clean it. So, and then at the end, you drain that out. So somebody who's on peritoneal dialysis can be at home. They could be at work. They could be doing any number of different things. It really, from my perspective, those home therapies empower you to live in a little bit of a different and better way.
Yeah.
As compared to being stuck on a machine in center.
To answer your question, though, I could get in and out to do my diet, my treatment really quickly with under an hour. Like I would eat my lunch, I would make my food, and then I would jump in really quick and hook up, do my whole thing, lay there for a minute. I don't even think we didn't have social media. So I guess I was going to say, looked at my phone.
That's twice you dated yourself.
Yeah, I did. And so I just sit there and then I'd hook it all up and then I'd run back to class and no one knew the wiser that I was on a machine all day.
This, again, I love stories, specific examples. Great description, by the way. But for me, it's to emphasize how important of an organ your kidneys are. Like everyone thinks about your brain, your lungs, your heart. Those are like the big ones people talk about. But your kidneys, let's talk about kidneys. Let's geek out on kidneys.
There's actually a beautiful book. It's a little dark, a little sad, amazing, by a really famous nephrologist. He just passed, and I actually don't have his name. I could probably look at my Audible, but the book is called The Body's Keeper, and he goes into detail about how much the kidneys do with your hormones, your health, like how the kidneys keep your body moving in a way that most humans never know or understand. And he goes into detail about the history of dialysis, the history of making it go through Medicare, and then allowing it to go and the systems. And he really goes into depth about it, and he gives his own stories about a friend who donated a kidney, a friend who needed a kidney, and I recommend it highly. It's
The Body's Keeper. I wrote that down. I love books like this.
Yeah, The Body's Keeper.
Trey,
I highly
won't
recommend
read
it.
But
I won't read it. I might listen to it. All right.
Listen to it. Audible. It has a glossary too.
Could be a dumb question, but what are some signs? Like, okay, I'm a 40-year-old man.
That was my next question.
What are going to be some things that I could pick up on to even
So
register?
I actually was thinking about that
Great
too
question.
while you guys,
Yes.
while you were talking, that's the hardest part is that really the kidneys are the sort of, they're silent. And oftentimes you don't know that there's an issue until it's kind of on the late side, unless you're somebody who's routinely looking. So probably the two most common causes of kidney failure are hypertension, that's high blood pressure, and diabetes, high blood sugar. And it takes about 6 years from when you develop diabetes to develop kidney disease as a result of it. So if you're monitoring in that period, you can try to control it and try to limit the damage to your kidneys. If you know you have high blood pressure and you're taking care of it, you can preserve your kidneys. But all of that can be silent. People may not even know, and they may not be attuned to it. So we see patients all the time who had no idea until one day they show up and there it is.
When you see these patients, do you have a hunch they might be, like, can you visually see someone and go, oh, they might be a candidate, or it's completely silent? Okay.
No.
Gotcha.
It's nothing like that.
Okay.
In fact, in my life, we do community events sometimes where we'll go to a church, some other event, and we'll take blood pressure monitors and just check and see, hey, do you think you might have high blood pressure? And these are people who otherwise think they're completely healthy. Let's check.
Or low income, a lot of times, never check their blood pressure.
Yeah.
Don't go regularly.
Yep.
Correct. Or have some suspicion of the medical system. We see that too. I'm not really comfortable going in and just checking to see what my blood pressure would be. Of course, you think it's going to be high.
So true.
But, realistically, at those events, we would screen any of a number of people who really needed to come in and be followed up. Some of whom already had what we call end organ damage. The kidney was already involved.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll talk about chronic kidney disease, end stage kidney failure, but the blood pressure thing, I'm glad you asked. What are signs and symptoms? What causes this? Especially for middle-aged men, no offense. I'm 42.
yeah.
I take blood pressure medicine. I tell everyone about it. You have to check your blood pressure. It affects so many other things people don't think about.
Yeah,
Trey's
I was
cringing
going to say,
right now.
Your vision,
the two
everything.
things that she gave, I had neither of those. I didn't have diabetes, and I ended up having high blood pressure, but that was more a symptom.
As a result.
As a
What came
result.
first, the chicken or the egg? That was
Yeah,
the-
exactly.
Yeah.
So just as like a little bit of context, I went to a walk-in clinic because you asked for symptoms. There isn't a lot, and I had a toddler, and I think the people who have kids know that you're tired all the time. And I kept falling asleep. I kept falling asleep. Like if we drove to Target, which is 15 minutes away, I would be asleep in the car. And my husband was like, what the hell? And then, or I was getting cramps in my hands where I literally
Muscle
would be,
cramps,
yeah, I would literally be
fatigue.
like pushing my hands down like, oh my gosh, this is so painful.
Itchy skin, isn't that?
I didn't have
that?
itchy skin. I had a lot of bloody noses. I was on a work trip. I had a lot of bloody noses. And actually, my mother-in-law at the time, she had cancer and she was getting it under control. And I was having these symptoms. And because she had gotten checked and because she was hyper aware of like her body, she marched into the school I worked at, was like, you're going and you're getting a full panel and you're getting checked. And I will tell you, I looked at her and I was like, I just have candida. I looked it up online.
Oh, Dr. Google.
I Googled it. My 22-year-old self was like, I'm super healthy. I just need like a cleaner diet. So that's why I'm just eating berries and no dairy and it'll be fine. And she was like, I also did have a loss of appetite. I was 94 pounds, but I was like, I'm just busy. I'm busy. I don't have time. I'm chasing a 2-year-old. I work full time. I'm busy. And then the next day I had my labs, and the very next day they were like, hey, there is a severe problem with your labs and we will be admitting you to the hospital. I would love to say that I was like, that makes total sense. No, I was like, no, I'm not going to the hospital. That's crazy. I'm a healthy 22-year-old. I have to pick my son up from preschool. I will not be doing that.
All you moms out there, I'm telling you.
You have to get panels monthly. Not monthly, annually. You have to get.
That's a lot.
No,
Not that
me,
much.
I do. No, no. Annually, I'm always like preaching to my friends, like get checked annually.
Or at least go for a physical.
But like annually is not a
Traditional
crazy
blood work
traditional
now.
blood work. So
Right.
I did go to the hospital after some convincing by my father-in-law at the time. And I will say my doctor now, who's part of National Kidney Partners, he is the co-chair. He's been my doctor for 16 years. I got into the emergency room. They said, great, we're going to have to do emergency surgery. We're going to have to get you on a dialysis. And I will tell you, everything they were saying was like speaking another language. I was like, I don't
Russian.
know. Yeah, I don't know what you're saying. I need a form. I need to sign it. I will see an outside doctor. I'm not doing this. And they were like, can you sit down? You're making us really nervous. And I was like, why? And they're like, your blood pressure is of someone in his late 70s who
What
is
was it? Do
obese.
you remember?
I think the top number was 195. And
What caused
that
your...
meant nothing to me.
Yeah.
I still
Oh,
was
you're
like,
I'm fine.
you don't understand. I have to pick up my son. I've never not picked up my son. I have to pick up my son. And then they were like, do you know what creatinine is? And I was like, no. something people take for working out. And they were like, absolutely not
That's
the right thing.
creatine.
Yeah. I understand that. I'm not proud of my naive 22-year-old self. And then Dr. Brucolari walked in, and I think they must have paged him and been like, there's a crazy person who's probably going to die in our emergency room. And he came in and was like, hey, so I hear you want to sign a form and get released. I was like, absolutely. Thank you. Can you get me that? And he was like, first of all, let me explain to you what creatinine is. Do you know what the number is supposed to be? And I was like, no. And he was like, can I tell you? And I was like, sure. And he's like, so below 1 or 1, right? And I was like, okay. He's like, do you know what yours is? And I was like, no.
40.
18. 18 is very high. And he was like, the only other person who's had that level in my care was a heroin addict who died on the spot. And I'm not telling you to scare you that. Have you done heroin? I was like, no, I'm a vegan. I've never done drugs and I don't drink. And he was like, great. So you need to have this surgery. And that was definitely like, I was like, I think I should sit down. And he was like, absolutely, let's sit down. So he had a whole talk with me. He really brought me to, he was like, can I get you to agree to go in for the surgery? I promise I'll be your doctor. I promise I'll walk you through this. I'll explain everything.
This was not a transplant. What was the surgery?
This was for dialysis. This was to put the catheter in.
To start dialysis. Okay.
They were like, you need dialysis yesterday.
Immediately.
How are
Yep.
you alive? And I was like, what is dialysis? My blood pressure? I don't even know what number it's supposed to be.
Yep.
I do not care. I have things to do. I'm supposed to go to Target and pick up my son. This is not on my agenda. I admit that the nurses were probably like, can we sedate her? Like,
Yeah, can we put her down?
insane.
I would have.
Yeah.
Like, here, just take
shut
these.
up. But I will say my doctor is incredibly lovely. He's still as great as
What
he
was
is
his
now.
name?
Michael Brucolari. He
Shout
is
out.
the
Shout
co-chair.
out. We love shout outs. Shout
Yeah.
out to Dr. Michael Brucolari.
Brucolari, yeah. He is the co-chair for National Kidney Partners. He sits on the board, and he is the board of our foundation, on the board of our foundation as well. And he's continued to be my doctor for the last 16 years, but he was a big reason that I agreed. Because you do have to agree. It is America. They can't just strap you down and give you a surgery, even though they're like, for sure you're going to die. they did have to get someone, and he was the person who convinced me that I did actually need it.
Let me pause that, because I think continuing that story in the second half, can we talk about the transplant also? The foundation is a big part of the second half. But
Right. So I guess from our perspective, from National Kidney Partners, there's a lot that we do for our patients. I mean, Carly's talked about, we have great docs across the board, no matter what market that you're talking about. These guys they're educators. They would tell you straight up, we're not about the money. If we take good care of people, the money will follow.
Yep. Oh, so
Like
that is their passion, is taking care of people. And so when we sort of look at, what we're able to do, the foundation allows us to add another level of what we can really provide for our patients. So when Carly came to me in the fall saying, I've had all this experience in terms of what I do, and I'm really thrilled about being able to put together a foundation. I'm going to do it with or without you. I was like, oh no, you're going to do it with us. We need this. We need this as part of our group. It's something that every day we deal with, this sort of ins and outs of healthcare and payers and all this other stuff, which can be a big,
you could say it.
a big wet blanket.
Yeah.
So having
soup
something
sandwich,
very positive to focus on
Yep.
really has changed the dynamic, not only for us, but for our patients.
We got about a minute left here till the commercial break. Any more shout outs before we go into commercial? The next half.
We have so many
just
great, incredible
dominate.
doctors.
Friends, family, thank you for all these.
Oh,
I mean-
to the board of NKP, in addition to Dr.
Yeah.
Brucolari, Dr.
Yeah, the whole-
Chate has really been instrumental in sort of helping to put this together. Dr. Wahid over in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh yeah, he just sat on a community call with patients last night.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the community call in the second half. But I mean, there's a lot that, there's a lot, so many great people. And then here locally, Dr. Kathapali, I would say, has been really great. His wife is jumping in to help with the foundation.
His staff are wonderful.
And the staff are wonderful. And we're looking forward to the upcoming kidney walk here in the local area
Love
too.
it. Let's hit that hard too. So, Dr. Lani Paxton and Carly Hamid. I like saying Carly Hamid. I love you, Mom. That's what the hell just happened. Welcome back to the second half of What the Hell Just Happened. If you're catching us here on the radio show and you missed the first half, good news is you can catch it on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube now. We keep saying YouTube.
Yeah,
right?
we're on YouTube.
Under What the Hell Just Happened. So all the video, if you want to see yourself on video, it's It's a little weird.
Yeah, that might
So-
be iffy.
It is bizarre to hear your own voice. So first half, we had Dr. Lani Paxton, CEO of National Kidney Partners and the Executive Director of National Kidney Partners Foundation, which we're going to talk about a lot. Carly Hamid. I just like saying that. What's wrong with me?
It's great.
I don't think we can fix that today.
We
I mean,
can't.
whatever that is.
We talked. It was a great conversation about the organization, a lot about kidneys, which I think are underrated. We'll talk about some more books here in a second. This is so random. Before we go to healthy or not healthy, I play a game when somebody says something. I'm like, that sounds like a good punk rock band. Do you remember the foods you said you were eating earlier?
No.
No dairy and berries.
Oh, no.
That's like a good band name right there. No dairy and
That
berries.
actually
Yeah,
does.
that does.
Yeah.
That's a weird game I play.
Yeah, maybe there's one who's
Or
already
just
has it.
berries, no dairy. Just, you know,
Either
just,
way.
yeah.
Either way. Okay, healthy or not. Yeah, I have problems. I have problems.
Yeah.
Healthy or not healthy. 3 boys ages 17 to 25 living at home with you.
Oh, that's a variable. Healthy, actually.
Healthy.
Healthy.
Yeah.
Healthy or not healthy, self-administering peritoneal dialysis.
Healthy as long as
Oh,
you're trained to
healthy.
do it. Yeah, you're trained to do it. You should do
Healthy.
it. Yeah.
Better than the alternatives.
Yeah.
Healthy or not healthy, seeing a doctor once a year to run your panels.
Healthy.
Healthy or not healthy, checking your blood pressure on occasion.
Oh, healthy.
Healthy.
Joey's got one.
I feel like you're calling somebody out when you said that.
I love calling Trey out. That's why I love Trey joining us. Healthy or not healthy, doctors writing books about disease processes.
Oh my gosh, healthy.
So healthy.
We have 2 specifically. You got any healthy or not healthies or no?
I don't. I'm sorry.
We'll come up with more later. But so these books you brought in. Can you tell us about these books?
Yes. So these books right here, they were written by the loveliest surgeon. Her name is Maria Bames George, and she's currently in her fellowship, her transplant fellowship in Colorado. The book you're holding is So You Need a Kidney Transplant. This one is So You Want to Donate a Kidney. And the whole book, it looks almost like a child's book, but it's not. It's not at all. If you look at it, can you imagine your kid reading that?
Well, they put it down to our reading level.
Yeah.
That's what they did.
To a patient,
Yes.
who knows
Yes.
nothing. She literally breaks down what every word means, like we talked about in the first part about like what is dialysis. She explains everything. She explains what to expect, what to ask. And I actually got the privilege of speaking to her, and we became fast friends. And she said her whole reason behind doing this is to make sure that patients can advocate for themselves, that they can feel empowered to make decisions, to understand what they should be asking, what they shouldn't be asking, and what they should focus on in doctor's appointments. And she is just amazing. Her website is The Strength of My Scars. And she does books on G-tubes. She does pediatric books. She's writing one right now on explaining kidney failure to children. So that's just what she does. She does them on liver, heart, asthma. She did one on asthma. She is the loveliest.
These are great.
Yeah.
She's great. So I just wanted to throw that out there. She's also going to be doing a little community call with me and her where we're going to record it for patients. Because as a transplant patient, I'm like, how great I get to talk to someone who performed a surgery I had. Like, that is the coolest thing in the world.
Did you read these during your process? These
No.
went around?
So that's the other thing I guess I'd like to say is we did not have these books when I was going through what I was going through. We did not have such a thing. You know what we had? We had Google. You know what I did from a hospital bed? I Googled my symptoms. Don't do it. Don't Google creatinine of 18 at 22.
Oh, yeah.
I remember Googling, like, will I be able to have more kids? Creatinine of 18, kidney failure. And it being like, oh, these stories are all really dark. So they didn't have these books. They didn't have communities. We didn't. Facebook was around, but it's not what it is now.
So Carly, you say this all the time. Tell them why. Why do we want to have a foundation? What do you want to do?
I want to build a community for patients to be able to ask questions and come together and actually feel heard, and also feel like they have a safe space to not. It's very dark being on dialysis. Not to bring down the tone, but it is not. It is not a fun thing to be on. I know you guys just found out what dialysis is. It's not great, you know. And I will fully admit, I've actually never even talked to Lani about this. I used to not tell people I was on dialysis. Like I mentioned
You
before,
were ashamed.
I was single mom. I actually went on a date with someone, and I remember him asking like about my life and stuff, and I fully was like, not going to tell him I'm on dialysis. Like, that's terrible. That's weird. So my whole thing now is I just had a community call last night, and the whole thing is like, I want patients to have a safe space to be like, I'm embarrassed to take medications. What medications am I on? Talk about everything, because I know it. I've seen it. I've heard it.
Healthy or not healthy? A strong community to talk to.
healthy.
I think that's as healthy as it is. When
It
you
is
have
very
people
healthy.
that have gone through what you went through.
Right.
So let's talk about the foundation. This line.
Ask one question.
Oh, go ahead, Joey.
Yeah.
Sorry.
How often do you have those community calls?
Well, we're going to have them once a month. We had our first one last night, and our next one is May 20th. It's going to be at 5:30 p.m., and it's a Zoom call.
And it's open to
anyone.
anybody.
Yeah, we have a patient in England who will be on the. We have a patient in England who will be joining our call on May 20th. We have a man who just hit me up on Facebook, and he's in Vegas, and he's like, I didn't make last night's. Can I make next month's?
So these community calls are open to anyone that's experienced, family members, patients.
Family members who want to donate or who just want to better support their loved ones and understand what they're going through.
It's open. It's wide open. In fact, we were even encouraging people who want to volunteer for the foundation, patients who are considering, patients, I say people who are considering donation, patients who have questions and want to know, what it's like.
Awaiting transplant, after transplant, something
Starting dialysis. I mentioned earlier I did both types of dialysis, but I also had a rejection while I was
Kidney transplant was rejected.
Yeah, now I got to keep it. I didn't lose it thanks to my wonderful doctor. He called me on a Saturday to let me know that I wouldn't be going to Boston. In fact, I'd be going to the hospital.
Congratulations.
I was super mad at him, honestly. Still super annoyed. I was really annoyed by that.
I appreciate your candid nature here. This is
Yeah.
I would love to be like, I am such a great patient. I got the call and was like, I am on it. I was like, can I go Monday?
not healthy.
Not healthy. But I did it. I did what I had to do. I kept my kidney. It was fine. But the reason I say that is that happened after my transplant. That happened 10 years after my transplant. And I think that patients get their transplants and you're living life and you're like, this is great. I was traveling to Amsterdam and Germany and I was all over the place. We had just gone public and I was like living a great life and enjoying life. And like, yeah, I took my medications and I didn't do anything wrong, but my body was just starting to reject. And the utter polarizing, hitting me of like, it was so polarizing, realizing I have to think about this again. Like I really have to think about it. And I will say that's what led me to this again. This was like what brought me back.
You're really good at transitions. Because go ahead, Joey. I can't see you raising your hand.
How did your doctor know that your kidney was
wonderful question. So your creatinine.
So it's 11 years later.
Yeah. So I get monitored every 3 months. I get monitored, and over the course of 2 visits, one visit, my creatinine went from 1.2 to 1.5, and Michael is like, I don't like it. Just go again. So I went. I was like, I was probably dehydrated. So I went again, and it was like 1.6. And he's like, super don't like that, Carly. Super don't like that. And I was kind of like, yeah. I waited a few weeks. I did my labs again, and it was again sitting at 1.6. And he was like, listen, and he is very, I think we mentioned before, I'm a very hard to match person, and we can get into that later. But the point is, I need to keep this kidney, and he knows I need to keep this kidney. So he's like, listen, I'm going to be extra precautious. I'm going to send you to Tampa General, and we're going to start checking. And I had a test done to actually, it tells you how likely you are to reject. And it said I was like,
go ahead.
Jump in.
I'm
here.
waiting.
So you mentioned that you are hard to find someone else had. Can you explain the process?
Well,
okay, I'm sorry. Sorry.
That's a bit.
I want to. We'll go back to clinical, but I want to make sure we
go
hit
ahead.
the dates coming up. The foundation.
Yes.
You two met how long ago?
In August, I want to say, of 2024.
Not even a whole year together.
I love this story because already you two in a room this is contagious.
Oh yeah. So
story, I'm going to say this line and then I want you to
go ahead.
So I'm going to start a foundation either way, either with you or not with you. That's what she said to you.
Pretty much.
Had you had a
very
relationship?
politely for the record.
Right. So her doc, who's our board co-chair, Dr. Brookeleri, is like, I really want you to talk to this patient of mine. I don't know where it'll go, but could you guys just get on a call and chat with each other? So we get on the call and she's like, well, so I assume you've seen my business plan. I was like, what business plan? I was like,
also calling you out, Michael.
So, they're all busy. I mean, I guess, I don't know what. So I was like, why don't you send it to me like right now? So we chatted on the phone and she's telling me all about, what she's going to do with this foundation. I really want to help patients. I want to bring a different perspective to the table. I want to fill the void where, you guys educate. And we do. We believe as physicians that we're doing a good job of telling people about what's going on with them. Sometimes we do. But sometimes it helps to hear it in a different perspective, or sometimes you don't have questions until you've left the room.
Right. Sometimes, also your doctor has to see so many patients, and sometimes you're like thinking
Time is
of
limited.
Yeah, and it's not the doctor's fault, but they can't sit and be like, is there anything else? Is there anything else? And sometimes you go home and you're about to take your meds and you're like, oh man,
I meant to ask.
I meant to ask.
Or I really don't understand. Or
I'm embarrassed to ask.
I'm embarrassed to ask. There's a million reasons. So anyway, we were sitting there and having this conversation about all these different things. And she's like, well, I've left my job and what I do because I really believe that I can do good in this area. I can help. I can do stuff for patients. And she's I'm going to do it with or without you.
So you left whatever you were doing before having anything.
I was the director of strategic programs in the revenue department at a cybersecurity company, and I had decided that I had an offer to do a similar job in the company to stay, and I decided to decline, and I'd already done that. At the risk of, I was just going to open a foundation. But I did it because I had this thought of, I think we hear all the time, like, you got to just make the decision. You just got to make the choice. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I just got to make the choice. I just got to say, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to focus on something that actually helps people. So by the time I talked to her, I was like, yeah, so I'm quitting my job. And I'm doing this.
Right.
What is the actual foundation is the National Kidney Partners Foundation.
Right.
NKP Foundation, National Kidney Partner
And
Foundation.
this runs through National Kidney Partners, is a completely separate entity.
It's
Are you
its
attached
own-
to a larger?
It's its own business. It is a foundation, but it is attached to National Kidney Partners. So our goal here is to help. We have, as we already talked about, like a lot of patients. So even
500,000, I think, was the number we came up with.
Right, 500,000 active patients. But even if we can help a fraction of those patients, there's so much need in our community of patients within National Kidney Partners. Do we want to bring that to a broader scale? I think Carly's already doing that. And we could talk about that in terms of her community calls and the things that are going on. But even if our scope was just National Kidney Partners patients,
That's enough.
that would be huge.
Yeah.
I like this. Like, if you help one person, that's a win.
Yeah.
And the percentage of, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to give a shout out to my 94-year-old grandmother. I was having a call with her. I was having a call with her when I was deciding about leaving. And I said, like, I don't know, like, I just, like, I'm doing a good thing, but, like, I want to help people. Like, I'm good at my job, but I want to help people. And she was like, you know what I always say? Like, I don't like to lay my head down at night not knowing I didn't help at least one person. Even if it just means, like, I opened a door for someone, or, like, I paid for someone's drink, or I paid, like, I got to do something, at least one thing every day. So if you just spent your day doing that, like, wouldn't you feel better?
Are you familiar with the starfish story?
No.
Right. So there's this little girl, she's 8-10 years old, walking on the beach. There's thousands of starfish. She's walking with her granddad. She picks one up, throws in the ocean. Picks the next one up, throws in the ocean. Just thousands of starfish across the beach. And the granddad says, what are you doing? She's like, I'm saving the starfish. You're not going to make a difference. You're not going to impact it. She goes, yeah, but I made a difference to that one starfish.
Yeah.
It's just a good analogy that I
No,
think
it's
all
a great
the time.
analogy. And I will say that put things in, I'm like, I already was on that path, that trajectory. But I think I also was like, yeah, like, how good would I feel? And I will say at the time, I was already helping patients. I was already helping patients without NKP. I had already been working with people on my own, and I knew how good it felt.
I'll give you an example. So here we are. We're in agreement that we're going to move forward. We actually got our incorporation done, I think, in November, late November, beginning of December. Before this was done, Carly's calling me. It's weekend or something. We had a patient who was in a different state who had got stuck there
Because of the hurricanes.
because of the hurricanes, and his PD catheter wasn't working, and he couldn't do dialysis, and he didn't have insurance that was going to take care of him up there. So he's like, I can't go to the hospital. I can't make this happen. We're like, we need to get you home. So we figured out how to get him home. And, collectively, got him back. So the specifics about that. So before we even have the foundation doors open, before we've taken a donation, before we've done anything, here's a patient that Carly has directly impacted. He's doing well. He's back in Florida. He's
doing
back
well.
on dialysis.
Can I read this that I pulled from the website?
Sure.
Is this accurate? So our nonprofit, part of National Kidney Partners builds a supportive community for those on the transplant journey. We provide resources, guidance on programs, kidney-friendly cooking classes and events, continuous ongoing support, helping patients and their families every step of the way from pre-transplant to post-transplant.
I would say that's true, except for we probably need to make some edits because we...
You're welcome.
Thank you. No, thank you. Because we also help with patients that have CKD. They have end-stage renal.
Got it in there, pre to post. I mean, it's fine. I think we got
the goal is transplant, but it's just the whole community. Like even people post-transplant, everything. We're just very, very much...
Upcoming events before, then we're going to go back to clinical.
Yeah.
So one thing, May 18th, Riverside Park, that's here in Jacksonville. So you're taking care of people all over Florida, the United States.
Right.
Riverside Park, gates open at 8:30. What's that event? What's next month? Isn't it National Kidney Month?
National Kidney Month was last month.
Was
in
March.
Yeah.
Just
March.
kidding.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
No, the National Kidney Foundation is an amazing foundation that's very, very big. And they do walks all over the United States. And this is just the walk for Fort Lauderdale. Jacksonville. Sorry, everybody.
Now you have to say Duval in a deep voice. You ever say that? No, I'm kidding.
No.
You don't have to do that. Yeah,
Sure.
don't do that.
Duval.
Yeah, no.
May
I think
May
no.
18th.
Jacksonville. And we will be there. Our foundation will be there. And our local doctors will also be there at that walk to see patients.
Outstanding. And then the community events, when was the next one of those? I want everyone to know about this.
May 20th at 5:30 p.m. I will make sure to send you guys a flyer. It's going to be via Zoom or via Teams that you can just join on. Yeah.
And this is every month you're going to try to do these community events.
Every month we're going to try to do it. And Maria is going to try to join that community call. We often have doctors join the call. We have donors who have donated it, who just are really excited to talk to people about their experience with donating. We had one last night. And then we have patients who just want to be better supportive partners.
Great transition. When you mentioned donors, there's donors for dollars and donors for organs. Right?
Yes, there's both.
Yes.
You're
I'm
right.
saying, so when you refer to donors, you're talking about organ donors.
I'm talking about organ donors. We
Let's
also
talk
love
about
money
that.
donors.
Of course.
Right.
Money, but
I mean, literally, so I mean, I come from a whole group of nephrologists, right? But so we talk about in our group, there's not a lack of kidneys that are out there. There's a lot of them in the country. If you look at the numbers of people that there are in the country, we only need one kidney, right? So if even a fraction of those people are willing to consider organ donation, we could legitimately solve the problem of dialysis tomorrow. There's a lot of kidneys that are out there.
Yeah.
I think the question came up earlier, and I don't know if you want me to go there?
Yeah,
Trey?
no, I just want to know like the process of like matching someone. Like, how does that all for someone that knows nothing? Eric needs a kidney. How do we get Eric
So
a kidney?
they do a bunch of different testing to look and see. It's a complicated set of things. I think of it as flags. Lots of your body has a certain set of flags, and your flags might not be compatible with my flags. So we have to look and see, like,
It's not just blood type.
do they work together?
Okay.
It's not as simple as just the blood type. We have to look at all those flags that are there and see if your set of flags matches mine. But here's the thing: if they don't, let's say that you needed to be an organ donor for me. And you're not a match. Well, you're probably a match for somebody else. And so they do this whole system where they'll go through what they call daisy chaining.
Okay.
And they'll hook you up with somebody else.
Yeah.
And then that person can hook up with somebody else. And so collectively, I think the broadest one I've seen, we had 18 people, 9 donations. 9 organ donations, all done on the same day.
Wow.
I think that
Because
one
one
started-
person wanted to give a kidney.
Just wanted to give. Like he walked in,
I
didn't
have
have
chills because I think about like if my family or kids need a kidney, I'm like, whatever it takes. But
Yeah.
for someone else that
To
I
just
don't
walk
know,
in.
that's a special human right there.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, I'll tell you just a human relations story. Shout out to my cousin who is a police officer in Louisiana. He has polycystic kidney disease, which is one of the reasons that people go on dialysis and need organ donation. And he was looking for a donor, and a bunch of us sort of were testing to see if we could be donors for him. And we couldn't, it was difficult to find a match. And he wound up going on to dialysis in the beginning. Well, he, as a police officer, serviced this particular bar. And so they all knew him. And they actually did a whole rally in the bar and got a bunch of people to go get tested. And it turned out that the bartender was a match.
Whoa.
And he was like, well, I don't know
What's
if
the name of the bar? I wonder if I've been there before.
I
I'm kidding.
yeah.
Maybe.
He's like, I don't know if I don't know how this is going to work out because I don't think I can take the time off that it's going to take for me to be a donor. Well, the whole group of the bar raised money to support the bartender so he could take the time off that he needed.
These are special stories.
And
They are.
he became a donor for my cousin, who's now back on the police force as a detective.
I have
doing
chills right
great. So, I mean, that's what it takes is people who are willing to step outside their comfort zone. People like Carly who want to help.
Healthy.
Healthy.
Where did you get your kidney from?
It was a cadaver, meaning it was someone who passed who just chose to be a donor. So
Organ donor.
Yep.
On my
Deceased
license
organ
right now.
donation.
Yeah.
Everyone, I think, should be an organ donor.
I
think.
absolutely agree. I did want to plug one other thing is she mentioned there is an abundance of kidneys. Like there isn't a lack of supply. There is to some degree a lack of knowledge of what it's like to donate. And we are having an event right now for sure in Tampa. We'll probably have one in Jacksonville. But if you look it up, there's a movie called Abundant, and it's a storytelling movie all about donation and kidney donation. And it's supposed to be very educational. And I'm going to be doing a fundraising event for our foundation with the movie makers of Abundant in Tampa. We're going to get one in Jacksonville. We don't have a date for Jacksonville. Tampa, it's going to be July 28th, most likely the AMC Theater in Countryside. And they're going to do a whole premiere for us where we can Q&A with patients. And patients can bring people who maybe want to donate and they can watch the movie. And Maria is going to try to be there with her books. So you walk out and you can feel educated.
Okay, quick question. If you want to be a donor, what is the process? How long does it take? You mentioned like getting someone a kidney and that guy, the bartender was down for a week or so. How long?
He was down for a month, actually.
Okay.
I mean,
is that
in terms of
common? Can it
recovery.
be shorter? Okay.
It could be shorter. I mean, typically you want to plan for a period of time of, about a month, but, and there's been a whole lot of issues around insurance coverage and things like that that are getting solved.
Even if
I
you're trying to
know,
donate.
grown.
Yeah,
Grown.
that's a whole other conversation. I don't think we have enough time yet to
Yeah.
talk
No,
about that.
we can't
Sorry.
dig into all of that, but that's a whole thing in and of itself. But there is support for the donors. There, they also make accommodations. Like if you gave your kidney and one day you need one,
You're
you're
top of the list.
prioritized. You're top of the list.
Kind of like that.
So so I mean that also makes sense, right? Because
Totally.
you've been altruistic in giving something. You want to make sure that you're going to be taken care of on the back end, and you are. That's how the system is working these days.
I like that.
Incredible conversation. Again, I hate that we run out of time. Any last things that we didn't hit? Like I gotta say this.
Well, I did want to say, so for our foundation, we are a nonprofit. The donations, like we're talking about insurance, we're talking about donors. Something we would do is if we have a donor, we have a patient who's like, my donor can't afford the hotel. We will help raise money to pay for things like that. We will pay for patients to get medication if they need medication. Like a part of it is ensuring that patients have a community where they can say, I need help with this. I'm this close to getting a transplant. I have food scarcity. I'm this, and we will come in and we'll make sure they are taken care of.
So I think you talked a little bit about community earlier. We're building a community. That community can help in a lot of different ways. We can help each other get patients to dialysis, to transplantation appointments. But whether you want to participate with us as a volunteer, you want to participate with us as a donor, a kidney donor, or a cash donor, either type, there's a place for you within our organization. So anybody who's interested is welcome to reach out to either of us to figure out how they can get involved.
You two, what you're working on, like your heroes. I think that's like a real hero. Incredible conversation, man. That was a lot. CEO of National Kidney Partners, Lani Paxton, and the executive director of the National Kidney Partners Foundation. That's a mouthful.
It really is.
That is a mouthful.
We call it NKP Foundation.
NKP Foundation.
You make it a
Let's
little
do
shorter.
that. NKP Foundation. Carly Hamid.
Yep.
That was a blast.
Thank you so much for
would you
having
come
us.
back?
Thank
I
you for
would.
having us. Absolutely, we would.
They had fun.
Right.
That's what the hell just happened.